He's Senior Spatial Computing Solutions Architect at AWS. He was Director of Interactive Visualization at Shop Architects. I had the chance to attend his sessions in AEC Tech conferences, and I thought it would be great to have him on the show and share his journey because I really admire the work you're doing. So thanks a lot for being on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and yeah, talk about technology.
So, Adam, can you share a bit about your background, the projects you did, and what are some highlights of your career till date?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep that brief. So, a little bit about my background. I studied architecture in undergraduate and for my graduate degree. I got the opportunity. I started at very small firms in Colorado, working on mountain homes. I was learning about construction documents and how to get buildings built. Um, I also started learning Revit in Colorado during my undergraduate degree there, and and dove in pretty deep into the Revit rabbit hole. Um, and then ended up coming out to New York for grad school and got an opportunity working at HOK. Got to work on some incredible projects there, and continued to dive into the technology side of architecture. Got to write a little bit of code, work on some computational design, jumped in and did some Rhino and Grasshopper work, and was really excited by that sort of thing. And then eventually I was exposed to virtual and augmented reality, and I really had a little bit of an aha moment where I saw the implications that this immersive medium could have on this inherently spatial industry. And so I dove down another rabbit hole there and haven't looked back. I yeah started writing a little bit of code, realized how bad I was at writing code, uh, and have just been beating my head against walls trying to figure it out. Um, yeah, and then so I moved from HOK. I started doing some research and development at HOK for virtual and augmented reality, and then transitioned to Shop Architects, and uh, really was lucky to be able to build and lead a team of engineers working on virtual and augmented reality tools for Shop. Got to work on some really incredible projects. Um, there, including the Brooklyn Tower and some other really fun technology campuses and some projects for the Department of State for some U.S. embassies. Um, yeah, it's been incredible. I just moved to Amazon Web Services about 8 months ago now, and I am a senior spatial computing solutions architect, which is really what that means is I work on a team, a prototyping team, and our team works with customers to try to figure out how we can leverage different spatial computing technologies on top of AWS to help them solve problems in their business.
It's pretty incredible, the whole from journey from college, computational design, visualization, and now working in the tech company. It's it's rare to see journeys like this, so it's kudos. And if you can elaborate specific moments and experiences in the career that ignited that interest in this technology, what was the trigger?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first moments that ignited my interest in immersive technology, I was at HOK at the time. I was working on a very large project, a large portion of World Trade Center 3. Um, and I was a building information modeling specialist. And so I was helping to manage the BIM um, the project from a BIM perspective. And we had a visualization firm come into our office to sort of pitch some of the new technologies and visualization services that they could provide, one of which was a mobile augmented reality application. And so they had a tablet, and on one of the conference rooms, they dropped a really, really beautiful high fidelity visualization of an office floor plan. And it was lit and textured and beautiful, and the interaction was smooth. And it really blew my mind. And that moment, I really had not engaged in augmented reality. I think this was in 2015 at the time, or maybe early 2016. Um, and it really, really blew my mind. And the first thought that I had was, hey, I need to learn how to build that.
Interesting. And like from that trigger of learning to like you capable of doing developing that apps, like what were the skills you had to self-taught and like stuff you learned along the way?
Yeah. Lots of different steps along the way. The first one was diving in. Diving in is tough. So the first thing that I did was I picked game engines after a little bit of research into how to develop virtual and augmented reality applications. They're all mainly, or at least back then, they were all developed using game engines. Now you can do some of these things via web development, but back then it was all game engines. And so I dove into game engine development, started learning C# was the language, and realized how bad I was at it, of course. And so I just watched online tutorials, so many online tutorials. There were courses as well. There's so many good online courses you can buy for $8 to $15. And it gives you 60 hours of content to watch through, and those were super valuable. I went to a whole bunch of meetups with other people who were already doing software development for immersive technology, and just was picking their brains as to different things that I needed to learn. And then I eventually realized that I needed to dive in even deeper than I was, and so I ended up taking a coding boot camp that was a full stack web development boot camp. It was a 6-month part-time um, boot camp that was on nights and weekends. And so those were the different steps that I took to diving in.
I see. And like for students who are like thinking of similar path, like would you recommend like a boot camp with like that much money is like is a good return on investment? Because like a lot of people have that thinking.
Yeah, I definitely do think that my boot camp was beneficial. Some of them can be a little bit expensive. There are some different pricing structures where some of them are that you don't actually have to pay for it until you get your first job after, or there's a few different structures there. I really did think that it was beneficial. I know that I could have learned just as much not doing a boot camp and just doing these sort of self-guided courses. I really did think that I would learn much faster if I sort of did the boot camp and forced myself to go 3 times a week, 4 times a week. And so, I really think that uh, if you have the ability to commit yourself and that discipline, you can definitely get there without needing to spend the money and do the boot camp. But for me, it made sense.
Got it. And so from that, like you learned full stack development and now you are at AWS. So like how do you plan to bridge the gap between AC industry and emerging spatial technologies?
Yeah, so at AWS, my current role does not specifically focus on architecture, engineering, construction, real estate. But I was brought onto a team because I have that background. And so our team has very diverse backgrounds of industrial immersive developers. Yeah, so I sort of own the architecture, engineering, construction. If something does come to our team that is in that realm, it will typically get handed to me. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm new here at AWS, and I am having a lot of really exciting conversations with other teams around AWS. We do have an engineering, construction, real estate team. And so I have been chatting with them and trying to figure out ways that we can collaborate.
I see. And like when we think about like architecture visualization, like we we think about okay, Unreal, Unity engines, or like web-based, like eighth wall AR, like spatial. Like when you like joined the AWS, that's where I realized, oh, Amazon has a specific spatial computing department as well. And then I was looking into articles, and you recently launched WAM, so it's like what's the overall goal for AWS in the spatial computing space?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We're going to have some talks where some of our leadership are going to be at the AWE conference next week, and they're going to be able to articulate a lot of that information. Um, but Yeah, but it's been really exciting working here with AWS. We are, really just trying to work backwards. We're trying to understand the needs of our customers and, what are real world pain points? How can we help them break down barriers and, create a better user experience for their customers and help them save money. And so those are the sorts of things that we're looking into.
Makes sense. I see. And if you can go a bit deeper into like an example where you use like AR VR technology that significantly improved the efficiency or the result of the process.
Yeah, so I think for this question, I would jump back to my time at Shop Architects when I was properly working in the architecture, engineering, construction industry. Um, yeah, so one of the moments that I thought was, you know, the technology really proved itself. It was very, very valuable. Was we were working on a technology campus, and one of our customers was a little bit concerned with the way that we had designed the building, and so. One of the teams at Shop came to me with this problem. Hey, this client has this concern that we designed this. The design could be a little bit better. Is there a way that we could create a simulation to prove that our design is good? And so this specific concern that the customer had was the way that it was designed. There was a walkway adjacent to some offices, and they thought that the walkway it might be distracting for the people that were in their offices. And so we were able to build a simulation, and since it's an immersive experience, put them in that specific area that they were concerned about and run the simulation of what that morning rush might look like of people entering the space. And we were able to mitigate their concerns really, really quickly and move the project forward. And on projects that are at large scale, that can have a substantial impact. So yeah, using them in that sort of what I would call like a design validation simulation type of use case is really powerful. As well as another moment that I remember is we were doing a tower in Vancouver, and we were using one-to-one augmented reality. So we built an application for a mobile AR, and we were able to drop a potential building in on site in place at that specific location. We were able to walk around. We had 4 iPads with a client team, several people, and multiple iPads, and people were able actually to toggle through different options of the massing of these towers to really figure out how the shadows hit the buildings next to it and how it looks within the context of these buildings, and walk around it because it's a dynamic experience. And what happens when you toggle through these different options. And we were actually able to pick one of those options. One of the partners at Shop mentioned that a process that typically takes 4 to 6 to 8 weeks of schematic design was able to be shortened to 2 weeks because of this new technology, and that really has again a big impact on the process.
That's amazing. And like I was wondering, like uh one could do like a lot more customization, like doing simulations as you mentioned, like if they start building on top of like the Unity engine or Unreal. There are also like low code or no code solutions for AR, VR, maybe web based. So for small and medium design firms, what are some low hanging, high impact AR, VR things they could do right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a lot of no code or low code options out there. There's a lot of third party software that you can use. Uh, off the top of my head, I I can't name one, but there's several that I can think of that you can just drop your 3D model, and in a lot of cases now you can tie it to BIM 360, Autodesk BIM 360, and directly tie into those projects that you're already using. And so there are a lot of out of the box tools. You don't need to recreate the wheel. You don't need to build your own software. You can, which is exciting if you want to build something custom. But yeah, you really don't need to.
I see. So the barrier to do AR, VR visualization is getting like lower and lower. In and from your perspective, like what are some biggest misconceptions or hurdles when it comes to integrating AR, VR, and other emerging tech in the industry?
That's a really good question, also. Some of the bigger misconceptions, or I would just say a hurdle. One of the bigger hurdles is the noise, right? There's a lot of flashy AR VR experiences out there. There's lots of people trying to apply AR and VR to every single use case under the sun. And I think it's important, just like any new emerging technology, is to stay focused on what the actual benefit is, right? How is this technology bringing more value than another piece of technology that is similar, or you could get a similar, you could be able to make a similar decision based off of another piece of technology. How is an augmented reality application better than seeing a video animation of this new building? Or how is a virtual reality application more powerful than just spinning through it in 360 on a computer screen, right? What are the benefits? How is it actually bringing efficiency? How is it helping process in these firms? How is it able to deliver a better product to your customers? And so those are the questions that I think are important. And one of the biggest hurdles is looking past the noise, and you know looking past uh, companies and people that are just trying to apply this technology to everything, and not being very, very intentional about how they apply it.
Yeah, that's really like great point, because when I was also like understanding, sometimes we have like very heavy Revit models, and if you try to integrate in AR, like the geometry is not optimized, and that will slow down the latency and user experience. So what's the end intent? Is it about like decision making or just a walkthrough, and depending on that you choose the geometry like details?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think the most important thing to think about, if you're trying to build an immersive tool, or if you're going to try to apply an immersive tool, is who is the target audience? What are the goals of the conversation, right? What are we trying to answer? What are the questions we're trying to answer in this meeting? We have 30 minutes, we have an hour, we have 5 minutes with a specific customer. We need these answers. Is this the right tool for the job? Maybe, maybe not. And those are the sorts of questions that I would ask.
I see. And like digging a bit deeper, like we have like sometimes the end users as the developers and homeowners themselves, and sometimes people also use this technology for like the users so how like depending on the end user like the participatory design aspect is different, so how should one think about it, like
Could you
if
reframe the question,
yeah
I guess?
like if the end user is developer versus end user is the actual like stakeholders of the project who are going to use the building, like how should one design the app accordingly, like what are the criteria they should change based on the audience?
Do you mean developer like real estate developer, or developer like software engineer?
uh Real estate developer.
Real estate developer. Yeah. So basically, was the question kind of how would the application differentiate depending on the different types of stakeholders?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and a difficult one to answer, right? Again, coming from a development perspective, or even if you're not a developer, but you're trying to apply these immersive tools to your projects, it is really important, again, right, to think about your target audience, to think about who you're talking to. If it's a real estate developer, they have very different problems and different needs than talking to your engineering consultant, or your customer, or the building owner. And so yeah, just the different needs are gonna be directly applicable to figuring out what's the necessary functionality that you need in this application, or what are the features that you can show. If you're using out of the box tools, what are the necessary ways that we can uh, get the answers that we need, and get the answers that they need.
Got it. And as a frequent speaker on like the AR VR tech in AC, how do you approach communicating these complex topics to the audience, and like who might be new to AR, who are expert s-
Yeah, that's a good one as well. I mean, I'm kind of repeating
yeah,
myself here a little bit, but again, is just know your audience, right? Know who you're talking to. If you can ask the audience, do a poll. How many of you are developers and architects and engineers, and how many of you are building immersive tools, to get a read on the room, and then start high level, right? Start high level, ask questions back to the audience, and then dive lower level after that. Yeah.
I see. And right now this is like a great time to do like any product development in technology with like the chat GPT to like various other era. So what technology excites you the most and what are you looking forward to?
That's a really good question. So, a couple of the pieces of technology that I am looking forward to, and just excited to follow moving forward. One is pixel streaming, which has been around for a while. Technology is getting a little bit better, and um, just really excited to see what happens there. It's been expensive in the past, but once we're able to put these games in the cloud, and once we're able to use any device, it's going to be really exciting to see if that is able to gain adoption for non-games use cases. um, Bring that AAA fidelity to anything that has a browser. It's pretty exciting. Also, I'm really excited about persistent augmented reality. There's so much work being done right now into, you know, spatially anchored systems where you can actually localize yourself in a specific location on Earth, and drop digital content accordingly. I'm really, really excited to see continued development in that space. And once we're able to at very large scales drop digital content on top of the physical world, in a way that is scalable and secure and sticky, that's going to unlock so many use cases moving forward. And yeah. there's tons of advances being made in that field as well. Um, Another one, of course, that I'm really excited about is generative AI, right? That's a huge one right now. Everybody is so excited about the potential of this technology. And so I think that there's going to be huge implications with generative AI and immersive technologies. That there's a lot of, a lot of overlap there. Another one is reality capture. I'm really excited um, about different reality capture methods. One is NERFs, neural radiance fields. I'm very excited about NERF and how, the implications of that and different ways that we're going to be able to um, leverage that type of reality capture. Looking at optimization and conversion pipelines for those types of mediums is really exciting to me. Yeah.
I see. Like these are like incredible good technology, and we can like literally do another like big talk on each of this. But like for people, like for the food technology you mentioned, if they want to get started today, is there any particular tool or application they can use and like experience and test it themselves?
That's a great question. There's so many. There's so many good tools to get started. There's so many good courses online. Talk to people. I think that the thing that I always recommend to people that are new to immersive development or development at all is, talk to people who are doing it. Anyone feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to anybody that is interested in the space and is looking for ways to get started. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. So yeah, just reach out and talk to people, communicate, and go from there, because everybody's path is different, and sometimes I might recommend learning web because I do think that there's so much potential in the immersive web. In Web 3D, is the tools are becoming better and better and better. But certain things, I learned jumping into game engines could be really beneficial for you as well. And so, talk to people.
Yeah, and like I also must admit that like the last time I visited AWA like I learned a lot about the upcoming technologies. So it's one of the like really good conference in XR. And like when you mentioned the technology, I was thinking of in the back of my mind, like if I have tested it. So like for like pixel streaming, like I know with Unreal you could do it with persistent global mapping. I know like Niantic has like way of anchoring it. For Nerve, I have like briefly tested, not like from the scratch, with Luma AI, where you could just scan it. And what was the third one you mentioned? Uh, there was one other term you mentioned, oh, generative AI. So I think like there are a lot of multimodal models you could like start. So this technology are there, and you could like if you spend good weekend time, you could literally experience it. So it's
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing where all this technology goes, and uh, looking forward to seeing the community string together these tools in new ways that can solve problems. And um,
I,
it's very exciting.
yeah. And Adam, reflecting on your career path, what kind of mindset or approach do you think it's essential for AC professionals who are looking into transition into like more text centric role?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a little bit recently, and I think that the main thing is to keep learning. I think that's a mindset that is super important, is just to keep learning, to, uh, to explore new tools, to explore new technologies. And then once you've explored something and you've found that, you might enjoy something. Maybe it's a tool, maybe it's a new role, maybe it's a new technology, maybe it could be either macro or micro scale. you know, once you've found something that you enjoy, validate it, right? I think that that's also an important piece of the puzzle here, is making sure that this new thing that you think that you enjoy doing is also, there's a fit, right? There's a roadmap for you, to work on it further in the future. Hobbies are important and great, but also, making sure that that the world is excited about whatever it is that you're thinking about jumping into, making sure that, um, there's so many ways that you can validate it. Read and see what people are thinking, and yeah, keep learning, and validate that, what you're excited about is good to spend time. I mean, there's just not enough time in the day these days, and so be intentional about what you spend your time on, and what you spend your time learning, I think.
Yeah, and also it's inspiring to see like uh, people like you who like are now role models for people. Okay, we can learn this visual like XR spatial computing tech, and we can also apply for jobs at like big tech firms. So it's it's when you see like people from the community, it says okay, it's possible. It's not, yeah. And anything you wish you would have done differently in your career?
Yeah. I don't spend a ton of time thinking about that. But um, I think one thing that I could do better, and I could definitely have done better in the past, is focusing on the difficult things. And I think that it's important to to focus on the difficult things, and even if there's an easier way to do it, always focusing on doing it the best way. And I'll put an asterisk on that comment, because you know there's just not enough time in the day, and cutting corners is frankly necessary, in life, and in every role. And I would even argue, if you're not cutting corners in specific parts of your day to day, then you're doing it wrong. But in the same vein, knowing when to dive deep, and work through the hard part is really, really important. Yeah.
I see. And like for people watching or listening, and if they wanna ask you a question later, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn is the best way. And yeah, that's just Adam Chernick. I think the name's right here. So you can look me up, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with any and all of you. And that'll be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you'd like to end on that note?
No, no, I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and really looking forward to chatting with you again soon, and talking about technology.
Yeah,
So thanks so much.
it was lovely hosting you, Adam. Thanks a lot for sharing all the work you've done. It's such a inspiring thing you're doing. So I always look forward to what you're doing. So
I really appreciate that.
okay,
All right.
have
Talk to you very soon.
see you. Bye bye.